Welcome to Truest Blood, the official True Blood podcast.
I'm Kristin Bauer.
And I'm Deborah Ann Wool.
And you've been invited in.
I want to do bad things with you. On Truest Blood.
Welcome back to Truest Blood, where we sink our fangs into the series bite by bite.
This week, Deb, is a very special episode for us.
I'm so excited.
I've been so excited. We get to highlight our favorite moments from season 5, share our personal recollections from shooting, and we get to do it with one of our favorite people, our producer and True Blood star, Janina Gavankar. She's the reason that this podcast exists.
I know. Hello, Janina. Welcome. We're so excited.
Hello, ladies.
To have you co-host. Yes, come and join us. We're going to discuss season 5 overall, but we want to start with your work as Luna Garza. It's so engaging, such an incredible character. And, before we jump in, I do want to talk a little bit about your resume because I'm going through this and I'm like, she has 10 plus episode arcs on like 15 different shows, which is just astounding. So, we're talking long runs in television with The L Word, The League, The Gates, The Mysteries of Laura, Sleepy Hollow, The Morning Show, Big Sky. These are all well-known shows.
You also nabbed the coveted leading role in a video game, Star Wars Battlefront 2. On the film side, a major role in the critically acclaimed Blindspotting and the movie Borderlands.
Amazing.
And now producing, writing, and directing your own material, Janina. Oh, and also this little podcast.
Official HBO podcast producer as well. Since we're not going to get like a full interview with you, we do want to ask you a couple specific questions first to get sort of kicked off here.
My face is hurting because I'm smiling at you both so much.
Well, we love you, and it's easy to love you. So,
yeah.
So first, tell us how you got the job. How did you find your way onto this little show?
This one was pretty simple. I auditioned and I got it.
Spectacular.
That's kind of it, ladies.
That's so awesome.
But by the time you came on, that was competitive.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
So you knew this show was big, right?
And I'm brown. So like there are more roles for brown women now, but there was kind of none. So it was a pretty big deal. But everything.
What did you know about it going in? Did you know?
Oh yeah, I knew it was the biggest show on the planet.
Well, but did you know your role was a love interest for Sam? What did you know going in? Do you remember?
Yes, I knew that my scene was with him. I don't think they blurred out any names. Oh, wait, if I'm remembering, maybe I did a chemistry test with him.
Oh.
Oh, yeah, I did a chemistry test with Sam. And I was like, what a guy. What a dreamboat. And then I left. And that was it. Yeah, but and I remember that the table read was on my birthday, and for some reason, Alex Wu knew it was my birthday, which was so sweet because I don't even really celebrate it. Yeah. So it was so sweet to have anybody in this giant room of the most famous people on the planet at the time know anything about me. And then I sat next to Rutina, and she was really close in college with a girl that I knew from grade school through high school. So I had one point, and I knew that because of, I don't know, Facebook. So I sat down and had one opening conversation line to say to anyone. And that was it.
Because that room was intense to walk into.
It's an intense room to walk into. I think about every guest or co-star or anybody who used to come to those table reads and just the amount of pressure that they must be under if they don't know how warm the room is. Yeah. But you kind of realize that while you walk out and you're shaking and you're like, actually, they're really nice.
Well, the interesting thing about our table reads is every department head came to the table reads, which is not common. Usually if there's people there, it's other producers or HBO uppers. So you walk into the room and you're like, oh my God, there's 20 producers here. It feels like, like an SAT exam.
People go for it.
Yeah.
And then whenever people die, we would clap them off. It was so sweet.
Yeah. It was so sweet. And then you started, was your first day on set the naked with the horses or something?
That was day 2. I don't remember day 1.
Yeah.
But I surely remember day 2 because we were completely naked, and we decided that it was going to be warmer to just lay exactly where we were, and they would throw these heated blankets on top of us.
Right,
but then I remember people walking by, you know, just like with their work boots. You're completely naked except for a towel thing on top of you, and then there's like just work boots clomping around. And there was this crinkling sound, and I couldn't understand what was happening. And I realized that the ground had frozen over, and they were breaking through little icicles.
Oh my God!
And you had a lot of interesting nudity. It was different than other nudity because you were like just talking, or also killing someone.
Oh yeah.
Like that's an amazing, you beat that woman right to death naked. I mean, that's kind of freeing.
Such a great moment.
I put that scene, I blurred out my nipples and I put it on my reel because I just thought it was one of the most insane moments. I remember I asked one of my friends in VFX at somewhere, I was like, if I send you something weird, can you just blur out my nipples? And he was like, yeah, sure. And I used it as an intro for like a convention. It was like a big, I don't know, speaking engagement or something. Yeah. And I was like, I'm going to get him. I'm going to get him. And I just, it was like this beautiful thing from this thing you've probably seen, and this beautiful thing from this. Now she's delivering a quirky line, and now, and then they would like end with that and be like, please welcome Janina Gavankar.
This is for my daughter, you human trash.
But that's clown work, you know? It's so just great. Like, it was one of the most challenging and, when I look back on it now, freeing things that all of us got to do.
So yeah, I mean, did you have favorite or most challenging aspects of Luna, bringing the character to life? Like, you know, what do you kind of remember as your experience of?
Oh my gosh,
of the work.
God, there were so many things. You know, I remember being so allergic to my daughter in season 2, and I was so sad about that.
Oh, interesting.
Because all I want to do always is just put my face into any kind of cat or dog and just like kiss them, and I'm so allergic to them. And they figured that out, so they were always separating us. They were like, "Oh, don't worry, we steal her, and she gets kidnapped, and then she goes to the authority, and then we'll just put these." That's why we're in 2 different cells.
Right.
Because I couldn't, otherwise I would be holding on to her.
Right.
There's only one moment when I get to hold her, and that's when I'm skinwalking. And
right.
You know, like on camera and telling the world that there's this underground bunker.
Yeah.
And I was so hopped up on allergy meds. It was so ridiculous. I remember the authority was just the most beautiful set. I remember looking at the book of Lilith, and somebody had created a page, every single page in that prop, in that book, that was then perfectly lit in the lobby of the, it was incredible. The whole thing was on, it was 5 feet up so they could have water in it. It was like, I had never seen and never been on anything as high budget at that time in my career. And I just was, I mean, you look at the bricks of those walls, and you're, you know, like I'm very into interior design. So and I didn't know then what I know now. So I watched this back, and I was like, those are not just, you know, high school theater set veneers. These are 6-inch thick exterior, high-end builder grade, whatever it's called, for subdivisions on the inside of this set.
It's staggering.
But yes, with that, I think let's transition into talking about this season 5 of True Blood.
All right, ladies. I don't know how we're going to do this.
I don't either.
Deb tries to keep us on the rails, thank God. And we have an outline here that is so wonderful and insightful and impressive because it points out that we see the other side of characters. And the writers did this without ruining the characters. And that's really a great point, Deb, because we see the other side of cold as ice Pam.
Yeah. We're so used to her kind of stoic, icy, exterior. But then in those flashbacks, Kristin, it's, you're human, you're vulnerable, you're emotional. It's such a staggering difference. And I love that, again, instead of contradicting who Pam is now, it adds this depth and warmth to her. And we wonder what happened, right? It's just spectacular.
I thought it was really brilliant because I didn't know anything about Pam. I'm not sure they did. And then in season 5, they write in a storyline that supports everything we knew about her and then also takes us forward into how she handles turning Tara.
Yes.
And then we have Terry, sweet, benign Terry, and we see him committing staggering atrocities in war, and we love him even more.
Well, or we understand this.
We understand
this, guilt that he lives with every day, and why Terry is the way Terry is, and the challenges. And then to see, have Scott Foley come in for that storyline and see someone who handles it very differently, and what the kind of results of these actions, what they have.
And Arlene's tough side. Right?
Yeah.
She comes out and kills Scott Foley. So we're seeing these opposites come out. We've got Joe Alcide, back with his dad. And by the end of the season, he's taken V, beaten and eaten the previous Packmaster. And that is, we got to throw, those lines that you have where Luna says, I've got it here, but
she
it's like...
ate her daughter.
No.
Yeah.
Wait, no, that's not right. She ate her son. That's what it is.
Ate her son.
Yeah.
She ate her son.
Which, can we talk about Dale Dickey for a moment then?
Okay.
Oh, Dale Dickey.
Oh
Dale
my
Dickey
God.
is truly the sweetest, hi, the sweetest, squishiest woman. And she is giving us Southern Gothic matriarch well before Ozark did it, well before Fargo did it.
Yeah.
She is giving us the Southern drawl that is, she's glamoring you.
Yes.
She glamours the audience.
Right.
Well, and even her, again, to give attention to that character, because she's someone who, we didn't trust. We're with Luna, not going to leave my daughter with her. And through the season, we're shifted on that, right? We learn to kind of go, oh, actually, she has this little girl's best interests at heart. And she does move away. She's just sort of a werewolf purist, I guess, in a way.
But I do think, when I watch it back, of course, when I was playing Luna, I was like, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you.
Of course, you have to be. Yeah.
They even touch upon the thing where it's Luna and her ex were toxic together. They both were little animals,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, but watching it back, I'm like, oh, this woman really is if she is a wolf, then we're the best thing for her. But I think that if she was a shapeshifter, she'd be like, you should take her. In the beginning, I think that she is actually down for whatever is best for that kid.
Yeah.
Which
Right.
I did not think when I was playing the character opposite her.
Well, I think Dale knew that. And I think because we know where it's going, we know that. But watching it for me, again, I was on Luna's side. I was like,
thank you.
No way would I give my daughter to the mother of my abusive ex, not even, no world would I do that. So I completely understood that point of view. And then was able to be brought around by Dale's performance and by, the storyline, the writers. So I'm really impressed with how they're maneuvering.
Yeah, Dale had two major things in her own arc where, she's obviously worried about her granddaughter, but also what's best for the pack.
Yeah.
She is guiding and seeing the problems, and she is trying to do what is best for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Chris Bauer, we've got...
Yay.
I've got so many lines highlighted from him because he, he
Always
has
an
an
MVP.
affair. Always an
How
MVP.
dare.
Hits it out of the park so often that we're just used to it. And I feel that way with Ryan as well, with Jason.
So here's a flaw of Chris
Yes.
Barnes. He cannot stop blinking during glamoring. It took forever to get that glamour shot because he couldn't keep his eyes open.
That's so funny.
It is hard because once you think, don't blink, don't blink, don't blink,
Oh,
it's
it's over.
impossible.
It took forever to shoot that little scene because he couldn't keep his eyes open, which is one of my favorite moments.
I've got a couple of quotes I got to pull for him because it's just so brilliant. And he now has 4 fairy babies.
He does, and no spoilers. They're not long for this world.
It's so good.
so good. And there's interesting things. So babies, infants, and I think we've sort of talked about this, you only get 20 minutes with them on set, and there have to be very specific lighting. It's a very big deal. So that scene where they have all 4 babies on the table when, the incredible Christina Anapau's Marilla, throws her leg behind her head, dancer.
I know.
That scene had to be shot lightning fast because they could only have all 4 of those babies for 20 minutes, and that was it.
And I loved how they put them on, what are those plastic sort of trays that they use in bars to wash dishes or something. I thought that was a great touch.
So
For dirty
funny.
dishes. It's so funny. Great touch. There's a lot of great touches like that this season. I'll throw in there, again, the puns and the detail that gets thrown into these sets. So we go to the steakhouse. There's this, the storyline of the kind of, supernatural haters out there that, touches in with Luna,
Obamas.
touches in with Jessica and Hoyt. So you go to the steakhouse, which of course is a great pun. Here in the steakhouse, some of these details, there's silver nail polish, there's UV paint that you can paint your house with. There's also garlic pills on that table. So just the incredible detail that our team, our set dressers had in creating every single piece of this show.
Yeah, unbelievable. Such artistry on every level on this show.
It shows you how much authorship everybody had. Every head of production got to leave a mark and think about deepening the lore of the show.
Yes,
100%.
yes. Under the head of Alan Ball that gave us the reins, to each department. He let them do their thing.
Yeah.
So we've got an incredible amount of fabulous things that happened this year. I mean, Salome is just Valentina, who played that role. She's just absolutely perfect. She's Italian, right? I mean, it's just so brilliant to cast an Italian. Only a European could be that absolutely delicious. And just the fabulous lines that are written by every writer in every episode.
Yes.
Someone says, I think McMillan says, Jesus. And what does Russell say? Oh, he was a hippie who smelled like patchouli.
I knew him. Yeah. But
Yeah, I know.
Salome, she has that moment where she's talking about how she was created into a symbol of female danger, right? That she, this was never, there's a world that kind of created her mythos that is not her story. And she can say that and also still be kind of a villain this season, right? One doesn't have to cancel out the other. They can both be true. And I also love she has that moment where she's talking about how, the human beings in her life were far more savage than any of the vampires that she met. So again, keeping these contradictions alive, that they don't have to cancel each other out. It's just, again, really, really key writing.
We've got the bromance with Bill and Eric. I mean, that really feels like it was cemented this season. I mean, those two, and then in their personal lives, they started a campaign to raise funds for charity. So I think Alex ended up losing and he had to wear a t-shirt, Bill's bitch.
Yes, that's right. That's right. I remember that. Well, it's fascinating because, they've been on opposite sides for so long, their storylines. So to finally see them working together is so fun.
is so much fun.
But I heard Alan Ball said they actually had to split them up, though. They had to give them a bit of a reprimand because they were having so much fun that they were having trouble cutting out the bloopers, like them laughing or not being able to hold it. Like they were having trouble in editing. So they had to go to Steve and Alex and be like, you guys, you have to take this seriously on some level because we can't cut it, which I think is really, really fun.
It's really cute. Yeah, I've heard stories about that scene in the trunk when they were trying to get out, when they're kidnapped by the authority, that it was pretty hard for them to not laugh. But, that sort of kicked us into season 6 and 7. There was a lot of laughing.
Yep.
We got more and more comfortable with the characters. When our executive producer directed for the first time, Greg Feinberg, he said at first it made him really nervous because there would be sound speed, cameras rolling. We're still laughing. We're still talking about our weekend, gabbing away, And then when we heard action, we now were practiced enough to turn it on, do that, and then cut, and then right back into, oh my God, did you see that movie? So that I think comes with the beauty of having this long a run where you get these characters on screen and off screen. And that's so rare.
Well, I want to give a shout out to Vampire Steve. Bringing this in is true. Again, talk about like changing a character and bringing in a new aspect. It's so much fun.
Yes.
Michael McMillan can kind of do anything. I had an absolute blast. That negotiation scene between Jessica and Steve is one of my favorite things I've gotten to shoot. One, because working with him is great.
I was like, gosh, being able to work with your friend, your real life friend.
Your real life.
When do you get to do that?
And it's great too because it's, so much of Jessica is a romance story, which is fine, but like to do scenes that are not romance based is like, woo, let me do, like, this is a negotiation, this is a manipulation, and I was so excited this season with being out of a romantic relationship, being out from under Bill's wing, like talk about, again, character changes. We can change life circumstances for characters. And so for Jessica to live in this with much more freedom and much more space, I was getting to do things that I hadn't done in previous seasons, like a negotiation scene with Steve Newland, like, being girlfriends with, Tara and a fight scene with Tara and, like those kinds of things that are so new and interesting for me as an actor. I was, finally getting to kind of come out of that shell this season. So, but
this
doesn't
season
even hold a candle to Michael and Dennis, the Russell and Steve romance, which is chef's kiss perfection.
It really is. And anything with Dennis O'Hare. I mean, honestly, I feel like when I see Dennis O'Hare open his mouth on screen, I feel like we're all just, trying to keep up.
I love watching him kind of sweep Steve off his feet, where he's kind of giving like fucked up Prince Charming, and you're like seeing Steve Newland be like, I feel like Cinderella. This is just like, this moment, oh my God. Like he is just swept up into it. Oh my gosh.
I'll give you a little behind the scenes on that. So there's their first date, which is where they go to give the V to the werewolves, and they're walking through this idyllic field
and
at
steal
night.
my daughter.
And steal your daughter, exactly. And they're holding hands. It cuts in with them walking, but in the back, the director, there's a tree swing, which he was like, oh, that should be moving, as if they were like sitting on the swing together.
Oh my God.
Just previous to this scene. So if you go back and watch that scene, you'll see in the background the swing is swinging as if they had a little.
Okay, this is a great example of there is a backstory to every choice.
Absolutely.
Every page of the Book of Lilith is covered in calligraphy. It is a backstory. Everything, even the, oh my gosh, a swing.
Thoughtful. The show,
thoughtful.
For as much, cheesecake, popcorn, trashy fun as this show can be, it is thoughtful behind. And I think we all really appreciated that as artists.
Yeah, and the audience appreciated it too. I think that gives a show lasting power, to be honest, is even if you're not noticing each thing, it gives a richness.
Absolutely. So, Kristin, can we talk about Pam and Vampire Tara and this incredible new relationship that comes out of, the kind of horror of the last season?
Yes. Can we just talk about how Pam also, when her maker was off in the authority set for the whole year, and I did miss him, that Pam was freed up to have this whole storyline with this fabulous actress. I mean, I hadn't worked with Rutina. She'd been across the room, like pointing a gun at me. She'd been across the field when my face was cursed. She'd sneered, but we hadn't gotten to work together.
Yeah.
Oh, my Lord. And remember the day of the kiss? And I knew it.
It's one of my favorite lines.
So great.
It's like a lovely celebration of intimacy, right? Because the core theme of this whole thing is fear of intimacy. So it's
right.
Oh, yeah.
When I think of Pam, she has not had any relationship that comes even anywhere close to what she has with Eric, right?
Yeah.
And this is the first time that certainly we see on the show, but I would imagine potentially in Pam's vampire life where someone gets that far, right? Under her skin.
Yeah, I feel like in my imagination, there's never been anyone but Eric when she was human, after, nothing. And then even she surprises herself, I imagine, when she says, I killed the sheriff.
When you're in the dungeon and he says, you're a maker now. It's one of the sweetest rites of passage kind of moments. Like it's father, daughter, it's lover, ex. It's, oh my gosh, it's so many levels of intimacy.
Yeah.
It's so
and
many
because
levels.
you guys were apart, the moments we do get you together, the release, as well as the flashbacks, there's a poignancy to them. We can't write them off. We can't sort of go, oh, another Pam and Eric scene. They matter so much to us as we watch them.
Here's a little BTS, I guess, because when we're in the authority and y'all break me out and we're getting into the elevator, all of us, and Alex said, hold on, wait a minute. Is this the first time that Eric and Pam have seen each other in how long? Right? Like, shouldn't there be like a nod? Like, oh, hey, hi, how you doing?
It's like a couple of days.
Right? It's actually probably like 2 days. But
it's not that long. It's multiple episodes, but it's like a couple of days.
Right. But it felt very long. It was a whole season for me. And whole 8 months of shooting. So we put in where she walks by him and touches his chest and goes into the elevator. Yeah. And Alex was very good at staying present and feeling calm and confident and saying, hey, hold on, can we take a second? And I think we could make this a little better. And I did see a lot of fans commenting on that little moment.
That's lovely. So now I want to talk about possibly my favorite storyline of the season, which is Skinwalking Luna. Not only the work you did on your side, but also the clown, you mentioned clown work, and I think that's a perfect way to describe it, of Michael and, Michael McMillan as Steve and Sam Trammell as Sam.
Yeah, it's like the boys got to have more fun than me, technically.
In a way,
except that I got to sit across from them and watch them do the work.
And I'm so curious, what was that like? How were you involved in helping them find that, or were you not involved? Like, what happened there?
So Sam and I, we sat in our trailers and ran the scenes. So I would do the scenes a bunch of times the way that I would do them as Luna. Right. And then I would sort of watch him like say the lines and then kind of like stare at me and try to be imprinted by my isms. And then even on the day I would do it, and then I would do it in a rehearsal.
Gotcha.
And then he would mimic it.
So you were always there, even if you were not called for the scene, you were always there.
Yeah, I was there. Wait, no, I wasn't there on some of the days that even though I would have been, they never like scheduled me, or maybe I was.
They don't do that. I'm always like, if I'm on the other side of the phone call, I'm going to be there.
I'm going to be
doing the
there.
phone call, right? You have to call me.
Yes, you have to call
Deal
me.
with it. It's not an AD. It's me.
Yeah. But by the time that Sam had swished his way out of the hospital, he kind of had it.
He did
I know. He's so good
He
at that.
swished.
Yeah.
I was like, really? Do I swish that much? But even if I don't, it's such a great choice. Who cares? You know, I think I maybe swished more because I watched him do it. And I was like, let me actually like make the lines blur a little bit more, and I'll take some of that and put it into her. And then for Michael, we did the same thing. I think because we both were in the suits at the same time, and like, you know, had that finale together. And I did the same thing for him. But on the day when we shot the, you know, like I'm sick on the couch in Sam's arms.
Yes.
I'm such a tech and production nerd. I had never seen a camera that once you train it, you program it to follow a specific direction and path, it'll recreate it and do it perfectly.
Yep.
So we had that camera, so VFX always had the same camera pass.
So
So it
the
was
motion control camera.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so it's a really long arm that could move any direction you wanted, and you could program it. It was so cool. So
that opening scene with Sam cradling Sam is so difficult.
It's so hard. And what he managed to pull off. So I did it a bunch of times. So when he was himself on the couch sitting up, he was always holding me, Janina. And then then they replaced.
Or Mike double if they wanted a piece of the hair or something like that.
Yes. And then we wouldn't switch places. They had his double come in and play him holding himself. And it was just, you know, these things are a delight. I texted him and I was like, I'm watching all of these things. And side note, life is life. My father passed at the beginning of this season. So I look back and I go, I don't remember doing any of this because I was so deeply in grief and just sort of like getting by, which I'm sure anybody listening who's lost a parent knows how that goes. So I'm watching this and going, oh my gosh, I hardly remember any of this. And I certainly don't remember how much my character did away from when Sam acted my character on that we had to go do all these things together, but he did all of those scenes. Of course, when I shot it, I'm sure I was highly aware of what I had just done. But now, 14, 13 years later, I'm going, I don't remember. I don't remember any of those. Why don't I remember those? And now I realize, because a huge life thing happened at the time. So I texted him and I was like, God, this is so wild to watch this so many years later. And he was like, I'm actually going to read it to you. It says, OMG, 3 exclamation points. I'm sure I'd be horrified, all caps, watching that. Can't imagine. Wow, thank you.
No, I mean, he might be horrified watching it, but it is as far from horrifying. It is
because it's clown work.
It's clown work, and he's exceptional at it. Right?
He's exceptional.
He really has a gift.
Let's not forget, Sam Trammell is the one that would read all of the Eric lines when Alex couldn't come to a table read, and he sounded, he sounded
and
like
have us in stitches, like
because it was too good. It made no sense.
Because it was too good. It was weird. It was like ventriloquism.
Yeah.
Yes, you're like, is Alex here?
Yeah, that's an interesting thing. Sam has had to do a lot of very interesting, tough, grounded clown work.
Well, I want to give a shout out too, as we're talking about the Sam on Sam episode here. This is Stephen Moyer's directorial debut.
Yes,
this is the episode, his first, and what an incredible one to jump into. Where you're having to do split panels to have, the same actor in the, twice in the same scene. You're having to use this controlled motion camera. So he's doing all of that for his directorial debut in this episode.
No big deal.
No big deal.
Oh my gosh, right.
Yeah. You hear so many stories about, this is a little insider baseball, a little industry stuff in general. you hear about, one thing you can do if you want to get into directing, and if some show really wants to hire you, you can kind of like talk them into allowing you to direct an episode in the second season, but then if you're kind of not loved, then I've heard the worst stories of people being like, I'm not taking a direction from that person because there's drama between people. Oh gosh, there's there's so many egos in Hollywood. Yeah. Not in this case. I mean,
not in this
beloved actor, leader amongst all of us, was a little bit of a shit starter of he loves a little chaos and just a little bit of he's got a little bit of a wild inner child. And I mean, every time you guys would go to Comic-Con, he was always the one that was like, hey, you do this and you do that. He got somebody to do like a handstand at Comic-Con.
Yeah, you got Ryan to do handstand.
Yeah. Like Quentin suddenly upside down, walking across the stage. It's like, why? Because Steven said so? Like, this is crazy, But he had all of our backs so much, and we all loved him so much that it was like, it's cool to be able to see a moment like that happen.
Yeah.
In general, knowing as much as we do now about the entire industry.
One, you love him, so you're excited for him to have the opportunity. Two, as someone who worked closely with him over 7 years, he was always a director, right? Even as an actor,
always.
His brain worked as a director. I can't think about lenses and how far you are away from me. I just can't do that as an actor. I have to be just in my body. Steve always had that ability to be both outside and inside at the same time. He always was thinking about what is being caught and where is the camera. So, it was the most obvious transition in the world in my mind, having had worked with him. And because he's such a thoughtful actor, I had so much trust because I was like, oh, more so even than a director who comes in once or twice a season, he knows this story back to front. He knows our characters very well. He's worked with almost all of us as an actor. So there was, to me, more trust and respect really going into that experience with him.
There definitely was.
This is also Alan Ball's last season.
Yeah. That was wild.
Sort of
that
seeing
was
how
wild.
much. Talk about Alan Ball having balls to leave the biggest show on the planet at the time, just being like, what, guys, I think I'm good. What?
And I trust you.
Yeah,
and I trust you.
I trust you.
Yeah, I think he said it was so sweet. He said, I've had more fun than I've ever had in my life, and I'm more exhausted than I've ever been in my life. It's time.
Yes, agreed.
Right?
Agreed.
And the wisdom to know that he was full, he was good, and we were good. And to hand it over and know it could go any way, could go any direction, but I'm going to take care of myself as well. It was quite a Buddhist moment.
I also think it's really a gift to have been around that, because I think all of us benefit from watching our creator and leader choose what was right for him is something that you don't get to see often in this industry, and really healthy and a gift to be able to see.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, before we wrap up here, I do want to throw out a couple of just other great moments, things we want to highlight because they were spectacular. Drunk Sookie. We all know Anna Paquin is the greatest actor ever. And, you know, Sookie asked a lot of her in different areas, but we have not seen Drunk Sookie. And, you know, she's funny, she's engaging, she plays it, you know, grounded and real, but also clown work with a little bit of height. It's such a beautiful side of Sookie and of Anna. So I want to highlight that. I want to highlight Drunk Russell, right? Again, we know Dennis O'Hare is incredible, but he gets high on fairy blood, and you're like, I didn't know it could get even better, but it could. Somehow he brought it to another level. I want to give a shout out to, you know, Bill Sanderson coming back and playing a minor bad, coming in to play a secondary story big bad for us. Yeah. He's so fantastic. And then we have Sweetie, who, you know, was with us in first season and now is back as a big bad herself.
Yes. And I just want to shout out the fact that she was there from day one. She is in Sookie's thoughts when she walks by for the first time. This actress gets to come back, and her name's Jennifer Hasty, and she came back and got to be a big bad that many years later. Come on, Jennifer.
That shows you again. Alan, True Blood, everybody looking out, recognizing talent, giving them their day in the sun. Yeah, noticing. I mean, her in that kimono with the pink slippers. Credit to Audrey running through the field. I mean, I would put that on my reel if I were Jennifer. Right? Like, what a featured, amazing moment. And she's funny and she's terrifying and all of the things. So yeah, big shout out to her. We're also saying goodbye to Russell this season.
Oh, yes.
We have
say
the
goodbye
death
to Russell.
of Russell, staked with bloody vengeance by Alexander Skarsgård, by Eric.
With the best
that was also a
line.
hard one to say goodbye.
Yes. That was a hard one to say goodbye. Alex's delivery on how that felt much better than I thought it would was
so wonderful.
So fabulous. But yes, that was hard to say goodbye to Dennis again.
And then, a shout out to Nelson Ellis, of course, every single season. Never a false note. We have this incredible storyline of the kind of demon within him and coming to some kind of closure over the loss of Jesus, and the beautiful moments they have had welcoming back Kevin Alejandro onto the show this season, letting that relationship have the ending that it deserves in a way, some kind of connection there, which then allows Lafayette to sort of rediscover that energy that makes him him, right? He's gone through so much that has dampened some of that identifying energy for him. And so it is so special to see some of that lightness, that fun come back towards the end of that season. I love them as the peanut gallery as Morella is giving birth in the back there. He said something like, I didn't see that coming. Or
oh my God,
like
with
that.
Jane Boathouse. I mean, that is so fabulous.
Sipping margaritas.
Yes. So good.
And then I don't know if we want to talk about glamoring Hoyt. I know
I was there that day.
Janina was
I
there
somehow
that day.
was there for some reason. I don't know. Maybe I had a fitting.
Yeah, that's surprising.
And then I
that you were
wandered
there.
over and I was like, wait, what? Hold on. What?
Yeah.
This is it?
Yeah.
That scene is so beautiful, not only
so
because of the two
beautiful.
of you, but because of Jason.
Yeah.
And anytime you can see deep love between two ostensibly straight characters, right? Like specifically men, it's really, again, intimacy. It really is drilling into the deep oil well of the primal theme of the whole thing, So, God, just watching you guys deal with that goodbye. And I think they wheeled out a cake for Jim.
For Jim, as a sort of a goodbye moment there. Because I think he'd already filmed everything else for that episode. So that really was his last day, which is remarkable. Yeah, I mean, I agree. For me, it is about Jason and Hoyt to some extent, mostly because they take them to a very dark place this season. Hoyt goes really dark and self-destructive. And Jason, again, talking about past coming back, he has this, really traumatizing experience that he had, sexually inappropriate experience with a teacher that has not previously been revealed, but again, helps us understand a little more about who he is and why he is. And the experiences that Jason has this season kind of coming to light, we needed to see those two connect wherever they were, right? It doesn't have to be perfect, but like you said, Janina, it is two people, two men who have deep love between them, having to say goodbye. And I'm in there in the mix, but theirs is the deeper, longer relationship, in my opinion. And so in a way, I like that while I have the lines, they did spend so much time with Jason during that scene. And I think that is great editing and great storytelling to make sure that really, and that they have that scene later on the road where they get to say goodbye is just a really special, remarkable way to end that story.
I remember reading that going, oh my God, he's going to eternal sunshine himself? No.
I know. It's a heartbreaker to have that deep of her. I mean, we've all been there where you want to just erase the good and the bad. And that's That was very
They made a made a whole movie about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
But I also like that, it's Jessica's first love, but she's also kind of like, that was sad, but I'm going to live. And I'm learning about myself. And
yeah. There's, for me, it always comes back to that father relationship with her human father, right? How abusive that was. The yelling, right? There's even a moment in that glamoring scene where Hoyt gets angry and he yells at her. He I'm not going to remember the line exactly, but he's like, just do this for me. And even in that moment on the day shooting, I was like, Dad, right? There's something that pops up that goes, you are a good person, but I see this in you and it makes me scared, and I shouldn't be scared with someone that I'm with, right? And yeah, that there's that, and that she's never not been with a man. There's her father, there's Bill.
Gosh, I'm just realizing how much parenting is in this season.
A lot.
This is the season of parents.
A lot of parenting.
I'm like, I got to get my kid back.
Or lack thereof.
Or lack thereof.
Right.
Yeah.
Pam's a parent,
Flashbacks
Eric's
to
always
my
been a parent, but he has to let you graduate,
Yeah.
Well,
like,
there's the moment with, there's the dual releases in a way where Eric comes and releases Pam, but Bill goes to Jessica and thinks this is probably the last time I'm going to see her. And I have to, what is my legacy? What am I leaving to the next generation? Right. How do I take care and make sure that the next generation does more or better?
And he has 4 babies.
Yeah, it's a lot of that.
Yeah,
and,
you're right.
So there's moments, with Jessica when she's brought into the authority and under Bill, she recognizes this hardcore, right? Like fundamentalist religion, angry paternal father figures when he throws her across the room, or, this is all flashback material. This is stuff that goes, whoa, my gut knows this is bad. And I don't know, again, I never got to really voice that in the dialogue very much, but for me internally, I thought there was some really brilliant stuff going on.
Brilliant.
So there's a couple of interesting challenges that came up this season that, again, I think this show handled so beautifully. One is that we were shooting in the summer, which means you only get 8 hours of night. So these were extraordinarily difficult scenes to shoot. You had to get them done fast. It took multiple days. So that's an interesting challenge that I think a lot of our directors found a way around. And secondly, and kind of most impressively, Anna Paquin was quite pregnant with twins during the last few episodes of this season. And, not only were directors just brilliant in figuring out how to shoot it so that she could work and be comfortable. Sometimes that's clothing choices, that's shot choices, a lot of shooting from behind. And there was at one point during the last few episodes, because you have to get that wide, they did have a double walk her staging so that they could paint out a bump if they wanted to in long shots.
So remarkable.
But really, full credit to the strength of Anna Paquin, who, as pregnant as she was, showed up every day for work, as professional as ever, pulled off performances that are award-worthy. Just female strength for the win here. I mean, she just impresses every single time.
Yeah, it's not like you get into your 3rd trimester and suddenly you get to there's a union rule where you can only work 8 days. No, you're still doing 16-hour days if they need you. So you just do it. Yeah. And she did it.
She did it.
Morning sickness and a porta potty and right back to the scene.
We love Anna Paquin. We think she's
an
aspirational figure.
Yeah. She is. She was a great number 1 on our call sheet.
And now for a quick bite.
And welcome to another installment of Kristin's Clip Corner. Now, Deb, I've got 6 pages of quotes that I've pulled from this season.
This was a full one, yes.
This was a full one. And look, Pam is always going to win.
Easy.
Okay?
I think we knew that going into this project.
Yeah. So I'm just going to set the Walmart sweatsuit aside and all of the other ones that were written. These writers were just fabulous. And I want to highlight, of course, I think this season has to go to Russell Edgington, as always. But so many people hit the ball out of the park in every episode in small ways and big ways. So I'm just going to throw at you some Jason Eric, some Andy Belfleur, some Russell Edgington, of course. I'm just going to throw some at you. And just, enjoy.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just keep thinking that if I make the right choice, all this madness will end and my life will go back to normal. But it's not gonna end, is it? It's not gonna change. We say goodbye, and the next thing, you guys are back in my house, and a 3,000-year-old vampire wants to suck my blood. Must be Thursday! Well, come on. What are y'all waiting for? Let's go hunt Russell. Onwards into the jaws of death. Hoot and rally.
Something funny, Fanger?
Yes. Blood bag.
Leech.
Breather.
Dead fuck.
Meat sack.
Stop acting like children.
Easy now. She just lost her son.
She just ate her son. What the fuck are you doing here?
What are you doing here?
Hey, help Luna!
Who the fuck is Luna?
Fuck it. I don't care if those ladies are fairies or leprechauns or frickin' Ewoks. I got a good thing starting up with Holly, and I ain't gonna let Morella and her sexy fairy friends mess it up for me, so I'm gonna steer clear of that place.
I can't be the only one who's noticed she's missing half her head. Now, can I?
Booker, I ain't in the helping business no more. I'm in the fuck off while I smoke a blunt business and business. About to pick way the fuck up.
No, sweetie, don't be a fool.
If I want to be a fool, then I will be a fool. That is my God-given right as an American.
I'm a gay vampire American. And I love you, Jason Stackhouse.
Jesus. I actually met him. He was a boring hippie who stank of patchouli.
Don't believe everything you read. The human Bible, it's little better than Us Weekly. They made me a convenient villain, a symbol for dangerous female sexuality. But I was just a girl with a severely fucked up family.
First, may I say, God has the most beautiful tits I've ever seen. Now, I have never been called devout, but watching Lilith shoot out of a blood pool while I suck down a bride to the dulcet strains of You Light Up My Life, well, praise Lilith, praise Jesus, praise Moses' cock. I am born again!
Okay, so for today's quick deep dive, which is always sort of my what I like to get my fingers sunk in deep. I really enjoy researching little certain aspects of the show or of experiences in making it. And one of the things that really I would love to dive into deeper is this idea of actors watching their own work or not. Kristin and I, we have made no secret of the fact that this is the first time that we are watching primarily this show. I did a little work, a little research on actors who do watch their work, actors who don't watch their work, their reasons why, and also kind of the non-actors sort of take on that and why. And the interesting thing is far more actors say they don't watch their work than actors who do.
I think you're an asshole if you say that you don't. Because, what about all the other people that worked their butts off to make the thing with you?
Yes.
You don't want to see their work. So what you're saying is you're ignoring all of the hundreds, sometimes 1,000 people with their post-production also that went into making you look good and working around you just so you can pretend that you didn't watch yourself. Stop. Just watch it.
It's fascinating. So there's the interesting thing is that yes, everyone all the actors, myself included, who talk about not watching their work, it is very ego-centered. It's very much on either I can't for some reason or I don't want to because of artistic reasons. It is very focused on that. And as someone who doesn't, I will defend that, to the end of my days.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the ones that who are
lie
about
faking.
it. Come on. Stop.
But also, I'm not sure
Right.
how many people are. I think people are being genuine when they say that they're not. I think that it's assumed.
That's because you're a genuine person, Deb.
I do. I assume the best
you're the
of people.
nicest.
I assume the best of people. But what is fascinating is that the people who do share that they watch their work are egoless. It's this beautiful expression of wanting to see how it comes together, wanting to support each other's work, and also genuinely like taking pride in your accomplishment, in the work that has happened, yourself included. And to me, that feels so much ego-less,
I agree.
than the other way around. So I would love to just sort of like go through some of our own perspectives on that. I can certainly share some of the people, who have publicly spoken about it. But what is that experience like watching oneself and why you would make the decision one way or the other?
For me, I do watch because it makes me better at my job.
Yes, that's a common thread. People talk a lot about
Doesn't mean it's
learning and
fun.
improving. Yeah.
Doesn't mean it's fun to watch. It's like the most cringeworthy thing ever. I know there's a scientific term for what it feels like when you do hear your own voice back.
It's a dissonance.
But,
It's like a cognitive dissonance.
Yes. So it's whack, but if it makes you better, then, like if you're a pianist, then you're going to listen to your tapes. I'm not having a hard time with this one because it's so long ago that I'm like, I look like a different person. I'm also 10 pounds heavier than I was then because I'm naked all the time. Like my face is completely different and the pressure's off, the show's over. So I think that most people would be able to watch something and go, oh, wow, with even more gratitude or a different kind of gratitude than you had when you were watching it back then.
For sure.
And also looking at your own life timeline and seeing the blips that are caught on screen and then remembering the blips that were happening off screen. That's
another common stream is the nostalgia, the memory keeping that comes with that. Jennifer Aniston talks about anytime she catches a rerun of Friends, it brings her right back to all the fun they had.
I think, when I hear Janina talk, Deb and then Janina, I think also of what we said about Stephen Moyer is that Janina is a director and a producer and a writer, right?
Yeah.
So there's an understanding of the whole picture and somehow braving the part that is your part. And I've often wished, so many times, I've wished that I'd watched whatever show I was on because I didn't like the makeup or whatever. I didn't like the hair. And I didn't know till I've shot 24 episodes, where I could have easily adjusted something that I was doing. Like I pick at my cuticles. I discovered that I'm doing it in the middle of a scene as the character who shouldn't be doing that. Right. And I didn't know I was doing that because I hadn't watched the whole frickin' 24 episodes. So I think it is a very smart thing to do. Now why I think part of why I didn't watch it, besides the personal ego / insecurity, same thing, but also because we had the scripts largely written before we'd start to film. So we would get these scripts sometimes 2 weeks before you were filming the scene. So it was living so large in my head. And then I would have multiple wardrobe fittings. So for me, this became this like epic performance and with all my friends and those shoes that Audrey picked and the blah, blah, blah. And it was huge. And then we took 17 days to film it. And then I watch it. They never filmed the shoes. Yeah. They shot it in a wide, that cool thing I did with my eyebrow. So the disparity between what's in my head and the 90 seconds was crushing.
Yeah.
And I thought, and I'm just going to live with the memory of the Hawaiian vacation and not look back on how I look from behind in that bathing suit. I'm going to keep in my head the memory of the ocean spray on my face.
I mean, I think, same, I'm on the same fence with Kristin, which is that I don't watch anything. So that was a decision I made. One, because I was quite literally miserable when I was unable. I do not have the ego
Capacity.
fortitude to handle both sides of it. I just don't have it. I don't have that strength, that ability. It just wrecks me. So I was an unhappy person. I am much happier when I don't watch it. And also, there is a part of me that says, and this is to say, I understand Kristin saying that like picking the cuticles was wrong for the character, and that's probably very true. But I also go, sometimes those unconscious things are the most interesting parts of characters.
It's behavior.
And I've just found that when I watch myself and I notice that I put my hands through my hair too much, or I was scratching at something, that then I get self-conscious about those things when I'm on set the next time. And I don't want to unlearn that, right? I don't want to teach myself to control. I want to teach myself to be more open and free and less controlled. And I think it does necessarily have to do with the type of actor you are, right? How do you like to work? You know, Jim Carrey, when he's doing Ace Ventura, the story is he watched every single take and adjusted and think, but he's a mimic, he's a clown, that's the kind of work that he's doing. And so there's a different process going on there. My goal is always to be as free as possible. And so my goal is to actually be less aware of all these little things and let them flow. If I have an itch, I want to scratch it. I don't want to stop myself because, last week when I watched myself on the show, I really didn't like when I scratched. Because also, and here's where I kind of want to close this up with some of the science that I think is really fascinating. There's the two obvious ones, which is that when we look at ourselves, we see ourselves in reflection. In mirrors, in our selfie photos, that is the image of ourselves that we're used to seeing. The voice that we hear in our head does not sound the same as the voice that others hear, the projected voice. So when we see ourselves on camera and we hear our voice on camera, our brains know that it's us, but it does not look like us and it does not sound like us. Even if it's just as pretty or just as nice, that doesn't matter. It's literally a psychological dissonance that makes you go, that's me, but it's not me. And that's a very uncomfortable space to live. And it's why humans in general struggle with that experience. But the bigger one that really fascinated me is called confirmation bias. And it's this idea that it is comforting to us to confirm our greatest fears. So when you're a primitive person, way back in the Ice Age, and your deepest fear is that you're going to be eaten by a wolf, it is really helpful to confirm all of the signs that there's a wolf out there. Better to be hypervigilant to that than undervigilant and therefore get eaten by a wolf. But now we're not afraid of that. We're afraid I'm not authentic enough. I'm not pretty enough. I'm too loud. I'm too big. I'm too small. These are the things that are scary for us. Our brain is literally watching these performances, seeking out our worst opinions about ourselves, whether we know it or not, because it will make us feel better to confirm our fear than to live in the unknown. So your brain is lying to you. Your brain is lying to you. Your brain is searching out the worst, and it's probably not even there. It's not even that it's there and nobody else would notice. It's probably not even true, but you are actively searching for any tiny bit of evidence to confirm it. And so, I had a lot of trouble watching this season. I really struggled with it. And I was so glad that I could watch with commentary on so that I didn't have to hear myself as much. It was really helpful for me to learn that my brain was lying to me. That when I watch that, it's the thing that I want the most in my performance, what I want to be true, my brain is actively working against as it watches. And I needed that. I needed that reminder. And at a certain point, I kind of go, I'm never going to play Jessica again. So there's not a lot I can learn from watching that. Helena Bonham Carter, I want to quote her because it's a really interesting one. She says, I'm not going to do exactly the same part next year. So what's the point? I love acting because I love doing it. That is my truth, right? I am a very selfish actor in that I don't think that much about whether the audience will like what I'm doing, beyond like the ego wanting to be liked part of it. I want to enjoy what I'm doing in the moment. I want to have as much fun as possible, even if that scene is like crying or falling apart or being murdered, I love the doing of it. And I like that more than I like watching even somebody else do it. I don't watch a lot of great drama because I would rather be doing the drama than watching it. So in a way, I think that holds me back too.
What did you two do at the premieres?
I didn't
you not
go.
watch the...
I left. I would go to the premiere and then I'd leave and go get dinner.
Oh,
I would watch it, and then, it was pretty, nervously, because I didn't remember where my scene was in the script. So I'm completely immersed, enjoying everybody else, and then there's my face 60 feet high, and it was like, ah! Yeah. And then I would be kind of like, oh, that was good. That was good. Oh, why did it? Oh, yeah. Okay. And then it was over. Yeah. And I would kind of hand it over. It's not mine anymore. It's the audience's to enjoy or not.
That's, I think, a real pearl of wisdom.
Right. It's handed over. And I remember saying to Alex when we walked out one time, like, whoa, that was so intense. And he was like, what was, darling? Like, he just didn't even, he just, sat there and enjoyed it. As, I wish that I could. But what's so interesting to me listening to you two ladies is how... you'll hear people say, well, actors are this or Hollywood types are this. There is no such thing. Each person is doing this from their own personality. Every person is there for a different reason. And the same as bankers or shoemakers or anybody. Yep. We are so as unique as our fingerprints in whatever job we're doing. You can't stereotype any grouping of profession.
Well, thank you all so much for sharing. And I hope that gives people at home a little more insight into why, some people really thrive watching their own work and why some people it's the worst ever and it would harm their performances, and that both of these have value and weight and honesty.
Okay, kids, gals, I'm going to cry. Janina, I can't even get it out.
Thank you, not only for talking to us today, but thank you for making this opportunity happen
podcast.
So that Kristin and I can have this experience.
Thank you, Deb.
Well, we have to thank Alan Ball first, right? He's the reason we went to him and we were like, is this cool if we do this? We have to thank Alan.
And he blessed us in that first season by coming on and christening the show.
Yeah. I just want to say, sure, I had the idea of most things and anything that gets created comes out of this, why doesn't this exist yet? Okay, fine. Why not us? We'll do it,
Yeah.
But I knew exactly who to call. And I knew that I shouldn't be one of the hosts. And I knew that you two would see this all the way through. And the fact that we're already in season 5, now I'm emotional, is really fucking cool. And I want to thank everybody who's been listening, because when you listen and you leave reviews, HBO sees it and lets us just make more for you. And this has been a really emotional and beautiful experience that we've gotten to share with everyone. And you two doing the heavy lifting is the reason why.
Next week on Truest Blood, we are wrapping up our examination of season 5 with the baddest of the bad girls, Valentina Chervi. We are so giddy to hear all about her riveting performance as Salome.
Yes, after watching the season, I think we just knew we could not do season 5 without talking to Valentina.
Yeah.
So that's next week. Thanks for listening, Troupies. Subscribe and follow wherever you listen to your podcast, and we will see you next week.
Y'all come back now. You're here.
Truest Blood is produced by Safe Haven for HBO. Executive producers are Janina Gavankar, Kristin Bauer, and Deborah Ann Wool. Our producer is Gabrielle Gallon, and our audio producer is Christopher Wool. Our theme song was recorded just for this podcast by Jace Everett. Additional music was composed by Timo Chen. And remember, you can watch all of the original episodes of True Blood on Max.